We're just going to give it a minute or two, guys, before we get going, okay? Just for any stragglers, but the session, just to make everybody aware, the session is recorded, so anything that you don't want going external, please just be mindful when you're talking about stuff. So, if there's anything that you don't want to go external, just be mindful of that, okay? Where's he laying in?
Is Shaba joining us?
Sharon did register. I don't know if something's come up, but she did register.
I'm more than overdue a catch up with that one.
I wouldn't like to be a fly on the wall of that meeting, to be honest. Catch up, Ellie.
We had a joint tattoo deal at one point. I'm still waiting for her to keep her at the packet.
I dread to think what the tattoo was going to look like as well.
It was actually Pleiades, you know, the Seven Sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'm always up for a tattoo, Ellie, so send us a picture and I'll just...
Well, there's mine. There's my Seven Sisters tattoo.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow, it's cool.
You haven't got space for that, Ross?
I've always had a thing for it, to be fair. You know, I'm just strange.
Space on my legs, Julia. Space on my legs.
Oh, is that? Right, okay.
Right. Should we get going? Do you think?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, let's get going.
Well, we're 3 minutes in, we've got 16 people, sorry.
Absolutely, good little start. So welcome everybody. This is our first installment of our new Wise Group webinars, which we really excited about, to say the least. So I'm hoping this is going to be the best half an hour of your day today. I'm Ross Stoker. I'm an operations manager for the Wise Group in Justice, and this is sort of a new webinar which we're setting up just to sort of see how they go. Really, we're hoping to do something, gather a bit of traction, and run these once a month. In an ideal world, that's the plan. So this morning I'm joined by the amazing Ellie Lowther. As if you come on the call a little bit earlier, you'll have heard her voice there. So me and Ellie's worked together for about over 6 years now, Ellie, would you say?
We both don't look any older.
We don't. We definitely don't. We look like the same age as we look the same as we did when we were 25, didn't we, Ellie? Exactly the same.
Maybe.
Ellie was the year above me at school as well, so she looks a little bit older, don't you? So today's topic, of course, is inclusion and all things related to inclusion. And Ellie is considered a visionary leader in this subject. And she's got dedicated safe spaces for all things inclusive. And she's also likes to challenge society around moving beyond tolerance and true inclusive acceptance. That was a bit of a tongue twister for us, wasn't it, for this early in the morning? I have said that the session is recorded, guys, so just to make everybody aware. But so anything that you do want to chat around, just be very aware that this is going in the public domain. So if there's anything that you don't feel comfortable going in the public domain, just please catch us at the end or catch Ellie off the call. Also, Ellie's going to have a Q&A at the end. So anybody who's got any questions, you can pop them in the chat, or just we'll freestyle it a little bit at the end. But what an introduction, what a lady. I'm going to hand you over to the amazing Ellie.
Thank you very much, Ross, and thanks to Ross and Julia for the opportunity to speak with you today as well. This is, we're going to be talking about free to be me. First of all, any questions you may have, please, I want you to use your language. Don't worry about political correctness with the language, because you need to get an answer that you will understand, so it would have to be in words that you understand. If there's anything beyond the pale, I will let you know in a really inclusive way. So please don't hold your tongue, if you will, because I understand there's a lot of different views around this. So when we're looking at free to be me, I think for me to do it, what we're going to be doing, how the shape of today is going to be this morning is I'll spend about 10 minutes talking about my favourite subject, me. And then once we've done that, I'll be bringing a resource up and inviting you and showing you some of the tools that you can actually understand a little bit deeper on a personal sense what free to be me actually means. When we look at the world of discrimination, I think discrimination, it's almost built into the system. From when the first people were here, really, like our society, it started off dividing people in an equality and equity sense with the simple thing of men and women. And I think in any groups, once you find the tools to divide, marginalise, separate, other, then them tools can be used in different places. I see us all having a space in this world in an equitable sense. Now, it really irritates me at times, you know, when I see some organisations, they might use service users' pictures or case studies and put them out there when someone's early in transition because the person's really keen to do so. But and then later on in life, that person then can't remove them from the internet because they're already there. So what I'm going to be doing is, and I'm invested in this area, I never want to actually pass as a cisgender woman. I always want to pass as me. So I'm going to use myself as a case study for this one, because this is pretty much what I do. This is a space where you can ask the difficult questions as well. So I'm going to tell you a bit about my life. When we're looking at marginalisation, we have to think of, there's so many different aspects of it. So there's nature and there's nurture involved in this. So I was born in a town called Poverty. So I'm from Middlesbrough, and you know, like that brings a cachet with it just of itself. But I was born a month after the World Cup was lifted. Yeah, I'm 60 next year. There you go. Undiagnosed for many years, high functioning, high masking autistic. Apparently, we look younger than our age, which I'm going to take as a bonus. So that's great as well. I was a child who cried constantly as a baby. I witnessed domestic violence. I had gender dysphoria all of my life, which I wasn't aware of because I couldn't make sense of it because I was brought up in a time when we didn't know about these things. But my dreams on a night were me wearing this checkered dress, being tied to some rail tracks, and Audie Murphy, an actor from my youth, who probably no one in the room's old enough to remember other than me, used to come and rescue me. You know, I was a gifted child in junior school. I was educationally above average, A plus, A plus, A plus for absolutely every subject. When I was about 10-year-old, I was in the park with my auntie, and I fell backwards off a set of swings, banged my head on the concrete, and that became our secret. Don't tell your mum. And it never got looked at. I didn't realise the effects that a TBI at different ages of your life can have on you. So I have this big edema thing on the back of my head now. I went into secondary school and I was classed as educationally sub in that scenario. And I always put it down to gender dysphoria. Getting changed in a room full of boys was the most horrific thing I could imagine in my life. But obviously there was other things going on in the education sense that I wasn't even aware of. I wasn't able to talk to my caregivers about who I was, about the thoughts, about being, not even understanding how I could see the world through female eyes, because I grew up in a time when that wasn't able to be. Yet we used to watch acts like Terry Rogers on TV, who everyone loved, but no one mentioned they were trans, while we demonised the trans person who lived 2 streets away and called them the bogeyman. With the narrative that goes on, it's little wonder that people feel afraid to reveal who they are or the things that they worry about. And that happened to me. So, like, how it ended up resulting was when I had issues in my life that I needed to talk to my parents about, I was unable to. So I ended up being a runaway age 15. I was found 4 days after I ran away from home in Bridgend, Glamorgan. During them 4 days, it was in the papers. I was abducted by someone who I believe was Robert Black. There's been a lot wrote about it, but he never admitted to the things that he did. I didn't have the words to say what I went through. That's where I learned how to disassociate myself. So I had my gender dysphoria, I'd been a survivor, I'd having an abusive childhood, all of these things that took me into life. I discovered recreational drugs age 16, trying to block out the traumas of my life. 25 years in a cloud of cannabis was me. Just getting through life, didn't know relationships worked. I was always a grafter, I was always a worker. I ended up working as a postie in my 30s. And mind, I was a single parent at this point as well, because I also didn't know how relationships worked. I didn't know so much about myself as I was going through life. I banged my head at work. I got another TBI. Postie sparked out unconscious in Ingleby Barwick in Middlesbrough, letters all over the place. I started getting flashbacks of some of the horrific things I've been through in my life. There's times when I've looked down the barrel of a sawn-off shotgun in my life. There's been so many times, but for the click of a finger, I wouldn't even be here talking to you today. I went into counselling, I went into therapy, diagnosed with chronic depression, PTSD, all this type of stuff. I still couldn't work myself out. 7 years on and off of counselling I had. After that counselling, I came away from that and I still had these thoughts, these dreams of, by this point, my dreams had moved on. I was getting married to Jamie from Shameless. I was in my dreams. I was still female in my dreams all my life. I feel as if I've seen the world through female eyes. And but the world didn't see me that way. The experience with gender is a really difficult one, but it's a really personal one for each and every one of us. It truly is. And I'm not a scientist to discuss about nurture or nature. But I realised after I got done with counselling, I dealt with all the traumatic things in my life. I felt I still had this white noise. My doctor asked me if I'd like to go into some psychoanalytic psychotherapy, which I said, yes, please. It was there that I realised that I didn't want to be trans. I was a parent. If my children were gay, I would have been disappointed. I'd see people living the truth as trans and I'd resent them because they were living the truth that I couldn't live. I forgot to say, when I was born, I was identified as a white cisgender person. We thought our heritage was English, French and Portuguese. But my dad, he left Calcutta at the partition. When he left Calcutta, they disowned the Indian heritage that they had. It was only a 23andMe DNA test that I found out that my dad's mum was 100% Indian and my dad's dad was 7/8 Indian with a sliver of French. So like the secret of being Anglo-Indian was held tightly. And that was for fear of racism, fear of oppression when they left India. That story happens for many people. And I know that since I've started talking about that, I see it. Now, when we're looking at that, I understood that when I come out as trans, my dad couldn't accept me. And we're over a decade on, and I've given up trying. Once I explained to him that I understood about the Anglo-Indian aspect, and he told me it was wrong, and it was 23andMe had made a mistake, I realised that he can never accept me because he can't accept himself. And that's just an understanding of life, if you will. Now, when I finally realised that, yes, I am a trans person, but I didn't know what to do with that information, I started writing lists, positives and negatives. On the negative, it was, you'll be disowned, your church will disown you, I'm also a person of faith. You'll never work again, no one will love you. What I'm going to tell the kids. On the positive side, there was one word. That one word was me. I had no idea once I crossed the Rubicon what my life would be like. No idea. But I knew that if my life, this one thing that I have, if that was going to be right, that had to be authentic. So that's when I started through transition. And that's why that word me and the ability to be free to be me is really important. We come with this quote, any one of us can be bullied or discriminated for being who we are today. Until we're all truly free to be ourselves, we're never going to create a safer, more inclusive world that truly benefits us all. Now, when we're looking at discrimination, I want to now share the resource that I've got for you today. And hopefully Ross will tell me it's working properly because I am not the best at tech. But
are you asking the wrong person in me to help you, really, to be totally...
Sorry, I meant Julia. I mean, see what I did there? I deferred to the male in the room. But that's sort of like, that's almost like a natural knee-jerk thing of what we do in life, isn't it? Like, yeah. I go somewhere and there's always a man who sorts the tech out. And he just comes and says, turn it on and off. And we could just turn it on and off, couldn't we? Really? Come on. Anyway, so when we're talking about free to be me, it's not about me, you know. This is about you. Every time you engage with people, every time you interact with somebody, you're coming from your view and you're seeing somebody from an objective perspective because you can see them, but you aren't in them, you aren't of them. So you have your judgment. They say we make a judgment on people within seconds of meeting them. And that's often the case because there's different stereotypes and things that we see which judge that. But I'm going to invite you to do something different. I'm going to invite it by a couple of tools of self-reflection, which I'm sure most of you on the call are aware of, but maybe you've never applied it truly to yourself. I'm going to invite you to do that. So what we're going to do, and this is something that you can do beyond this, because I would like you to do this as an exercise. This isn't to share with anybody. This is to actually share with yourself. And when you share this with yourself, then you're going to have a better understanding of where you are and who you are and what you're masking and what you're actually living with. And then when you understand that, you realize that for you to exist, you need space to exist. But also, you also realize that that space to exist, we give that to others for them to exist, and we stay curious. So we're going to be looking at a quick fly through in the next 8 minutes till the end of this, till I go to questions. The social graces and the Johari's window. So the social graces, it splits the world up into different areas. Everyone here. By the way, this PDF will be available. Julia and Ross will be able to send it out to you if you get in touch with them. You can have this sent to you. So this is how we divide society, or this is how we rate society. Bear in mind, there isn't a better or a worse. We have to take off that judgment. You know, when you're looking at class perception, like some people might think upper class is better than working class, but each place is a space where people exist, and in that space there's different communities, and there's different levels of discrimination within those spaces as well. But as I said earlier on, it starts with gender. Basically, as humans, our natural thing is to divide as men and women. And we see the inequality. In the 80s, a woman could be a victim of domestic violence and the police would walk on, call it a domestic. You wouldn't be able to buy your own house without a man's signature on it or have your own credit card. There's been hard fought for rights with feminism. And for me, like I subscribe to third wave feminism, which includes trans women. But maybe there's a bigger act of feminism that actually men should be aware of and fighting for as well. Because in the world of the privilege bus, we always have to shout out for the people behind us. So I'd like you at some point, do it in the next week, because if you forget about it, you won't do it. Write these down. Your gender, where you are, where you're from, your race, your religion, your age. All of these are somewhere on a spectrum, because there's very little in this life that is actually binary once you look into it. And then I also want you to look at this and put some of these aspects within the Johari window yourself. So the Johari window, it's a really interesting social theory model, and it helps you to conquer your own personal blind spots. So when we go into work, we should have the autonomy to take into work what we want to take in and leave private what is private. But then it's the reasons why we're doing that we have to examine. You know, I remember years ago, because obviously there weren't any lesbians, but there was like, hey, your Aunt Mabel, she never married, but she was all right. She lived with a friend, Mary. Hey, they were, at least they had company. And that's how they used to explain lesbianism way back in the day. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's so many things that are just hidden away from us in different areas. So there's things that are known to yourself and known to the others and known to others around you. There's blind spot which are known by others but not known to you. And that's where some of the discrimination comes in. I didn't know that I was Anglo-Indian, but I grew up in school being called the half-caste kid. Never been feeling like I was one with the white children. Never feeling like I was one with the black or Asian children. Just somewhere in the middle. Once we start looking at that middle place, that's that either or, that's that marginalisation, and that's where we other people. We have the mask, don't we? The private self that that you don't show others. Back in the day, if you're in the office place, a woman wouldn't have a partner, they'd have a husband. And it'd almost be like a social pecking order. If you had a husband, you'd achieved something. Women used to have thought they could marry a doctor, not be one. The first person to be credited with doing a cesarean section operation was a trans man, Dr. James Barry. That's the 1800s, because obviously trans is a new thing. And then there's the unconscious self. What isn't known by you and what isn't known by others. And we discover that by using these self-reflective models. We take time to work on ourselves and we understand where we are coming from. And we start to take our ego out of it, because we all have one. And we start to move forward in a proper sense. Where are we? This is me. The picture on the left there, that's me pre-transition, about 6 months before I started social transition. I know, I think I look younger now, to be fair. And that was almost 15 years ago. If that person was speaking to you today about inclusion, you probably wouldn't even listen, because that person's seen as having all the privilege in the male world, and not being overly like looking like from a different race. When people see me, I understand they see a trans woman, and I'm proud of my journey. I never want to pass as a cisgender woman, because I think that theory of passing as a cisgender person, it's flawed, because it just gives us a different cave to hide in. I'd rather work towards a world where we can all actually just be who we are, without the fear of discrimination, marginalisation, hatred, violence. That picture in the middle is a really recent one. See, I've always been low-key proud that I've done all sorts. I set up the first trans safe house in the UK. I was a finalist in the National Diversity Awards 2019, Positive Role Model category, Inspirational Women and More Awards, all this type of stuff. But I've never actually won an award. And I was quite proud of that, because I suppose that ties into my own expectations within my own working class roots coming from Middlesbrough. But I set up this choir during lockdown called Systemic. And in a world of systemic abuse and discrimination, systemic inclusion needs to be a thing. And I love a good acronym. And I love Les Miserables as well. I wanted us to do a Les Mis flash mob, but most of my choir don't like Les Mis. What can you do? It stands for Sing Your Song, True Equality Matters Inclusive Choir. This week, we actually won the Inclusion Award at the Catalyst 25 Awards, which is the Stockton Voluntary Sector Awards. So I'm now the founder of an award-winning choir, and we shine at all. And we don't judge ourselves on how good we are. We judge ourselves on the community we build. And the dream is to have systemics all over the country. I'm also currently doing a social work degree at Teesside Uni, and I've set up a systemic society there. That'd be systemic too. I'd love there to be systemic 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because when community comes together and values each other, then we actually end up in a world where that inclusion happens. And that picture on the right is me in the radio studio, because I do a radio show every Sunday morning. Anyway, we have to change the narrative in this life. And changing the narrative is taking away from how things are. Spending time reflecting on ourselves to see who we are and recognizing our own biases and privileges, spoken and unspoken, when we engage with others, because we're all playing into this game, because we're all humans. I'm a big fan of Soren Kierkegaard and truth being subjective, and everyone's truth is really valid and really important, because we have one life. Anyway, before we go to questions, see, my timing's not too bad, Ross.
You're doing really well.
Oh, bless you, thank you. Any one of us can be bullied or discriminated against, dependent on the audience. Until we're all free to be our true self, we're never going to enjoy the safer, more inclusive world that benefits everyone. I say let's remove the aspect of tolerance being the imposter of acceptance by viewing the world through the lens of our own self-reflection. Understanding our own position, privilege and biases allows us to engage with others on a more equitable level. When we better understand ourselves, the ongoing self-discovery of our journey through life, we understand the tools for an inclusive world are hidden within each of us. Be curious, be inclusive, and actually be. This does require you to be mindful of leaving space for understanding further, and it stops us from sleepwalking through life. The newspaper challenges and screams at the word walk. I'd like to ask you if you're awake yet. Now, you are all essential, every single one of us, regardless of what you think. and even the questioners, because without the questions, we don't get the answers, but we have to meet on a level. So I am more than happy to take any questions, and I would stop this presentation if I knew how to do so. So I'm going to hand you back to Ross.
Over to me, guys. So if anybody's got any questions, Ellie, if you go, oh, there you go, you've done it. Get in. Well done.
I did it for you, Ellie. I did it
Oh,
for
did you?
you.
Oh, so you kind of take all the credit there, Ellie, unfortunately.
I take no credit whatsoever. I'm sick of me.
Honestly, amazing, really heartfelt presentation, talking through some really personal situations that's helped you evolve into the life that you've got now. So thank you for that, Ellie. That was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I feel that we all have to be able to not be afraid of speaking about ourselves, challenge ourselves, you know, spend some time in our own dark corners and like tell that part of yourself that's stuck there that it's okay to be.